Howie Roseman just formed the most talented group of skill position players in Philadelphia Eagles history on day one of free agency. Recap coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What on, Eagles fans? I'm Louis DiBiase, co-host of the Locked On Eagles podcast, Eagles analyst also over at Bleacher Report. He's Gino Camilleri, my co-host, our scouting director, and another analyst for Bleacher Report. On today's edition of Locked On Eagles, we recap a crazy day one of NFL free agency for the Birds, which isn't even done right now, but we had to react to the news of the Eagles signing running back Saquon Barkley, edge rusher Bryce Huff, and extending Landon Dickerson. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Howie Roseman got started today, and that's an understatement. I mean, just crushed the day, Gino, signing Saquon Barkley. We've been talking about it for a few weeks now, saying maybe they would reconsider their stance on running back. They do not pay running backs normally multi-year deals north of $10+ million. Well, today, Howie Roseman said, I'm going to zig when the rest of the league is zagging. He says that all the time, agreeing to a 3-year contract worth $37 million, $12.3 million annually for an absolute elite offensive weapon that, again, when you combine Gino with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts, the Eagles have had some talented offenses in the past. Michael Vick, LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, the 2022 offense. There has never been a group in Philadelphia with the talent they have on offense right now. This is an elite scoring offense.
I first want to say I hope that Tiki Barber is having an excellent day right now because Saquon, yes, he signed with that team, Mr. Barber. He signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Lou, you talk about the ultimate zig when everybody else zags, taking advantage of a market inefficiency. I think you put it perfectly in your tweet. Paying a talent, regardless of
remove position,
$12.3 million.
Of that caliber.
That's Gabe Davis money.
91 catches. 91 catches as a rookie, an elite pass blocker, one of the best running backs. Again, yes, as a running back, Gino, we've said this on the show over and over again. $12 million compared to the production of somebody you pay $3 million, maybe not a smart investment, but compared to what other positions are getting, inferior talent like Gabe Davis is getting more than a Saquon Barkley. 12.3 is a steal if you look at it through that lens.
And at the same time, what are you doing? You are removing the biggest hiccup from a division opponent, which was the biggest, I would say, Achilles heel when you played against them, was defending Saquon Barkley. Well, they just said, all right, we're going to sign this guy at a discount, and the Giants didn't even make him an offer. Are they out of their, what is that? What is that franchise? They're like Everton in the Premier League. Like, let the big clubs have fun with these guys like Saquon Barkley, and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Getting him in at $12.3 million, I don't care that he is a quote-unquote running back. Lou, hit him with the statistics that you were about to say, because that's what he is going to give this offense. He's going to give you the pass-catching option, the ability to run behind this offensive line. They're just going to continue to pump this guy and just hammer him home in the end zone.
And, Gino, look, I'm not saying pay any running back $10+ million. Me and you have on this show over the years said normally it's not a smart investment. Neither one of us wanted the Eagles last year when there were rumors swirling that they could trade up for Bijan Robinson. We didn't want them to do that. We thought the Detroit Lions were crazy for taking Jahmyr Gibbs, and the Eagles were able to take advantage of that and get DeAndre Swift for little to no money, and they sent a late day 3 pick. And this year, I was okay with that strategy too if you go with a Gus Edwards or a Devin Singletary. But Again, normally this is not the right investment, is to pay a running back. But when you look at, as you mentioned, the key word is market inefficiency. When you look at the entire league now has a unanimous opinion about this position, suddenly it kills their stock, where a talent like Saquon is only worth $12.3 million. When you remove position, that is a steal for that kind of talent, considering the impact he's going to have on this offense next year. He's not again, I wouldn't pay Derrick Henry right now $12+ million on a 3-year deal, but Saquon is a Christian McCaffrey-like weapon, and that's the kind of player you bend the rules for.
And at the same time, you bring in Kellen Moore, who's look at what
perfect
he
for
did
Saquon.
with Austin Eckler. Yeah.
Or Tony Pollard.
Or Tony Pollard as well, who, let's take a look at Tony Pollard and DeAndre Swift. Both of them signed equal deals for around $8 million respectively.
You got Saquon for $4 million more, Gino?
Look me in the eyes, and you're telling me that we only have to pay Saquon Barkley $4.3 million
That's
on
crazy.
average more than those two guys, when he is going to present you more upside, more ability to be a true 3-down back. DeAndre Swift, as much as he was explosive at times,
yeah, he was good.
He wasn't great after contact last year. He didn't get out what Howie Roseman thought he was going to bring to this Eagles offense, if we're being honest. But Howie Roseman, what he said today, Lou, is we're going to go and sign Landon Dickerson, make sure our offensive line is great, and then we're going to go and get a guy who we believe will be one of the members of our core, has a huge base rooted in the Philadelphia area already. He played at Penn State. You hear all these whisperings around Philadelphia that, oh, I knew a friend of a friend who heard that Saquon got an offer. Well, that's how tight-knit that Philadelphia area is. And the selling point has to be, we are going to try and run this thing back next year. And the equal, I would say, counterpoint to why you would go and sign him, look at what San Fran got out of Christian McCaffrey. That's probably the closest you are going to get.
And you need firepower to match that team, because they're not going anywhere. Yeah, and so to me, this is, again, I love that Howie is always trying to be different. And when I'm so glad we did that show right after the Combine when he talked about, zigging when the rest of the league is zagging, because this was an idea that me and you brought up, was maybe he tries at running back because I mentioned running back, but you said specifically, what if they just say, F it, we're going to invest just all in on the offense and pay every position and just try to outscore every single team. Outside of the 49ers now, Gino, there's not another team in the league that can match what you have when it comes to depth and top-tier talent on offense. How do you game plan now for a more healthy, mobile Jalen Hurts, a Saquon Barkley, an elite offensive line, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert? And what if you add a more explosive wide receiver 3 than a OZ or Quez Watkins? I mean, again, the 2010 Eagles and the 2022 Eagles, I think, are the only two that can match similar to what the personnel is right now. And of course, because in 2022, a lot of it were the same players. But there's never been a group this talented now that you add Saquon.
And I want to keep focusing on the point of comparing it to what would be a deal to sign a third wide receiver and or a second pass catching tight end. Now you don't have to go and potentially overpay, like you said, a less of a talent. And no disrespect to them, like Gabe Davis, I think he's going to do great in Doug Peterson's offense. I think that's that's like an Alshon Jeffrey type of sign for him. But to say that he's making only $700,000 more than Saquon Barkley in an offense where you know that this is really that needed piece, and talk about really buying into the synchronicity of Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore combining their offense, I'm sure Kellen Moore said, if you give me a true 3-dimensional back that can do everything, and I think you saying that he is a fantastic pass blocker might be the most underappreciated one of them all, because you're going to protect your biggest asset, which is Jalen Hurts, and all those red zone carries and all the tush push. Guess who they're going to give it to? The guy who can blitz pickup more than 600 pounds in Saquon Barkley. Yeah,
that's right. And blitz pickup was such a problem last year. This isn't just a running back. This is a do-it-all weapon. I mean, just listen to his reception total since 2018. 91 as a rookie, 52. Then he was injured in 2020, so he only had 6. Then 41, 57, 41. That is a do-it-all Swiss Army knife that now, unlike a wide receiver 3, Gino, who's going to fight Goddard, Smith, and Brown for receptions, like sure, Saquon's got to fight those guys for receptions, but now you're also going to add all the carries. Like this is running back, in a vacuum is not smart to overinvest in, but this was the most impactful thing you could do for the Eagles offense for 2024.
Without a doubt. And the thing that you are going to look at now is you no longer have DeAndre Swift and Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, this committee approach, I think you can for once say that they have a bell cow back, Lou. I mean, talk about changing philosophy. Howie Roseman puts his money where his mouth is, quite literally. He adapts, zigs when everybody else
The only
zags.
thing you can guarantee, Gino, is that he'll do trenches. Everything else about his philosophy always changes.
He
always.
is quite literally the Charlie Day wild card gift where he cut the brakes. But I want to take a step back, Lou, because people are probably saying, oh, you're changing how you talk about the money around a running back position. I want to go back to the 2019 season when Miles Sanders was so good. And we first started talking about what could potentially be his contract if you did extend him. On record, we said that at that time, we would be okay paying him Christian McCaffrey money if he could do what a Christian McCaffrey could. Well, you come 5 years later and you're in that exact scenario now. You don't have to pay him Christian McCaffrey money. You only have to pay him a little bit more than probably Josh Jacobs is getting, probably Derrick Henry is going to get. And I think he presents more than all of those guys. Maybe Josh Jacobs.
And Gino, I'm not suddenly changing my philosophy. I don't think it's smart to invest in running back like this over and over and over again, but this is a unique circumstance where the money is not bad. The talent being available is an outlier, and you're in a window right now where you're going for a Super Bowl, and you have the salary cap space to do this. If you were tight on the cap like last year, no chance am I saying go out and make this move. But this year, you have that flexibility. It's a unique situation. And, Gino, they made another splash. They signed an underrated pass rusher on defense from the New York Jets. We'll get into that coming up next, right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Guys, want to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Day one of free agency, still in the works. It's only 4 p.m. Eastern time while we're recording this, but the Eagles have made some splashes, signing Saquon Barkley. We're going to talk now about the 3-year deal for Jets edge rusher Bryce Huff. They extended Landon Dickerson. I've heard that they're not done. Xavier McKinney's name is being thrown around, so maybe we'll have another now later on, an emergency show tonight or tomorrow morning. Howie Roseman always makes it interesting. We talked about Saquon. Gino, now let's get into the first move of the day, which we've kind of been expecting since this weekend when people said, keep your eye out for.
Move. Clarify that.
Yes, first free agent move. Correct. People were saying this weekend when the Josh Sweat trade rumors came up that the Eagles are going to be aggressively pursuing Bryce Huff. Well, that's exactly what happened. They agreed to a 3-year deal worth $51.1 million. And this is another Howie Roseman-like move, very much like Haason Reddick in 2022. It's an elite production pass rusher that has a smaller sample size of only a few years, not a ton of snaps. He wasn't a full-time starter. So you're trying to get in a year early on an ascending elite talent, that's only going to get now like $16 million annually for a guy that was number one in pressure rate the last 2 years. That's an incredible deal.
Did this feel so similar to this Haason Reddick?
It feels just like it.
Like identical, right? Where you're
because Reddick was like that. He had a good year in Arizona, then he went to Carolina and had another solid year, and you're like, okay, he's ascending, but what is he? Is he a full-time edge?
Yes, why isn't anybody paying
And then boom,
guy?
19 sacks in 2022.
Yeah. You watch Bryce Huff, man. I think anybody that watches tape and his quote-unquote rotational minutes, I don't care what his snap percentage is. If he comes out there with his rear end on fire like he does every single time, he is going to be warranted of much more than what his contract is. And
oh, yeah.
what is the talks right now that Hassan wants anywhere between 22 to 25.
Well, Gino, most guys that lead the NFL in back-to-back years in pressure rate, he had the number 1 pass rush win rate too. He was 3rd this past year. Pass rush productivity, he was 2nd. Like every number, every category you can go in, Bryce Huff's been top 2. Those guys are getting $20+ million, and he's at 16.
Howie Roseman is always going to pay a talent more, or let's say less than they are worth, before they are worth what they are.
It's kind of like what they do with head coaches too, in a way.
Yes. And they have done that. I think they did that with Tim Jernigan back in the day in 2017 when they did that pick swap. They go and get him. He's an underrated guy, comes there, helps you win a Super Bowl. I mean, year over year over year, Howie Roseman is looking at these positions where there is the top of the top, right? But that's not maybe where Howie Roseman is swimming. He's looking at the guys who are just about to break out, the guys that are a year ahead of schedule. And that's what Bryce Huff is. And when you see him in a rotation with Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham and maybe Josh Sweat and or Haason Reddick and potentially a young draft pick, he's not going to play 100% of the snaps. We know that. But if he can go out there with his rear end on fire, which is his best asset, his explosiveness, literally no pun intended with what I just said there with asset and rear end. But if he comes off the line with the explosiveness, the just work rate that he has, Lou, he is such an Eagles defensive end edge type of player. He's going to bring that element of being able to drop out into coverage. I know we hate that, but he is a freak athletically. He's got length. He's got versatility. Somebody said that he's like a Ferrari coming off the edge. That's the easiest way to put it, man. You just let him go out there and go just wreak havoc on Dak Prescott, on Daniel Jones, and whatever Washington's going to do at their quarterback situation.
Number 47, though, we might need to change that. I'm not a big fan of the number. He's too good of a player at this point. But yeah, Gino, he's going to be in a rotation with, as you mentioned, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham. I imagine this now means the end for one of the two between Haason Reddick and Josh Sweat.
Yep.
If you would have paid somebody like $20+ million, I would have said Reddick's done because you can't pay two guys that kind of money. But with it only being $16 million, I'm not sure which one it would be, whether it's Josh Sweat they keep or Haason Reddick. I get it. I don't want to lose both those guys. I think even at the end of the year, considering the collapse, there's still two elite talents that are still in their prime. I want to keep one, but I do understand the logic of saying, hey, instead of just extending Sweat and Reddick, let's trade one, get draft picks, extend the other, and go out and get a Bryce Huff. So we're going to get, like, let's say they trade Reddick. We can get Huff, Sweat, and a 2 instead of just Sweat and Reddick, which I do understand that logic. I hope, though, this doesn't mean the end for both of them.
I think it would preclude them from getting rid of both of them because now it's not an and or. I think you have the optionality of whoever is going to present the best situation of a return in terms of assets.
Sure.
And when it
maybe
comes
just highest bidder.
If Josh Sweat could get you anywhere within a 1 range. And I'm just saying that because if you look at the deal, you look at the age, you look at the contract, he's the one who's going to garner more interest when it comes to overall assets as opposed to Haason Reddick. Haason Reddick might be the guy that you say, all right, let's pay him again. He's our closer. You know he's going to come up clutch. Bryce Huff, we just paid him. He could play the Josh Sweat role, and we can get assets in return and replace some other areas with rookie contracts. That might be the way forward. As much as you and I, we love Josh Sweat. We love this kid to death. We have loved him from his days at Florida State, his evolution in terms of becoming a run stopper and then becoming a true overall edge defender. But rumblings are, man, they were not happy with that edge position. No. And today, it's evident. You go out there and pay Bryce Huff that money, they're not happy with what happened there down the stretch. They really
gave him
want more out of that position.
They gave him one of their contracts. That's what they did.
100%, Lou. 100%.
That's a huge statement. And yeah, like Josh Sweat's only 26 years old. In a vacuum, you'd probably pay him over Reddick. But you know, the Eagles have now two core staple young pass rushers in Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff that I think you can afford to say we can keep the 30-year-old instead of the 26-year-old.
Yes.
Again,
that's great point.
I'm with you though that if Josh Sweat can get a 1, you trade him. If Reddick can offer the higher price tag, then you trade him. I think one of them is almost guaranteed now, though, to get traded. Bryce Huff, by the way, Gino, this is the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history for an undrafted player that's not a quarterback, which is pretty interesting.
Shout out Bryce Huff. Shout out to, it's not where you play, it's how you play, man. And
crack out your number 13 Josh Huff jerseys, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes. Recycle.
If they're
I
out
love
there.
That, Lou. Could you
Not
imagine?
sure why they'd be out there, but
Imagine
there's some sickos. I have a Quez Watkins, so.
Yeah, you do. But no, great first two moves. And if that McKinney move comes, that's the rumbling. That's the one. What a great way to start it. But before that, the Eagles took care of their own move. I mean, they always do a great job of that, and that's how they started today.
Landon Dickerson got a contract extension. They paid him the most money of any guard in the NFL. We'll get into that coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast.
Today's episode of LOE is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or on a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spread, money lines, and you can even pick who is going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. We thank FanDuel for being official sponsor of the Locked On Eagles podcast and the entire Locked On Podcast Network.
All right, Gino, as you mentioned, the Eagles, before they made huge splashes, bringing in Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff for the offense and defense, they took care of their own, one of their best young players in left guard, Landon Dickerson, agreeing to a 4-year extension worth $84 million, $87 million max value. He gets $50 million total in guarantees and a $20 million signing bonus. That's the highest paid guard in NFL history at a $21 million annual worth. Crazy, Gino, but I think it's well worth it. You keep this is the Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey blueprint. You have an elite trench player that you drafted in-house. You do not let that guy leave the building. Landon Dickerson is one of the best interior linemen in the league. Even last year, he allowed an average time to pressure of 3.86 seconds. That's a career high, and it was the longest in the NFL from a left guard alignment. This is an elite player at a very important position. You got to pay him. And he's done a great job staying healthy. That was the thing I was concerned about, was longevity with Dickerson, but he has played in almost every game the last 3 years.
I don't think enough is said about Howie Roseman when it comes to his ability to seemingly turn this position over. The most important position on the offense outside of quarterback is your offensive line.
Yeah.
He has now done that at left tackle, only having 3 guys have played that position in the last 20 some odd years or so. You look at what he has done at guard. He had Isaac Seumalo there, who seemingly went over and replaced Brandon Brooks, who was seemingly one of the best players at his position. If neither the Saquon move or the Bryce Huff move would have broke at this time, and we only knew about the Landon Dickerson move, Lou,
still a big
it's
day.
already a win for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. You hit it right on the head. He's an elite player, and it's a steal, all right. Look at Robert Hunt. No disrespect to Robert Hunt of the Miami Dolphins, now of the Carolina Panthers, is making $1 million less than Landon Dickerson. Landon is a top 3 guy at his position all day long. He's well worth that money, and it's already a steal, in my opinion.
Gino, I hate to stop the Dickerson talk for a second, but Xavier McKinney did just sign with the Green Bay Packers.
All right,
so
that one to rest.
The number 1 guy for me in free agency that I wanted is off the books. So that's the thing, Gino. They took care of their own with Landon Dickerson. Huge move getting Saquon Barkley. Bryce Huff is a huge move on the defensive line. However, they do need to take care of linebacker and safety, which is the 2 positions that we would not shut up about these last few months. Well, McKinney's off the board. Also, Patrick Queen did sign with the Seattle Seahawks today. So
no, he didn't. That's false. You got. Did you just get got by a fake?
Did I get got?
Did Lou just get got by a fake report live?
Dang it.
You gotta log off.
I got to log off the podcast. You know, you got to host the rest of the... Okay, so Queen did not sign.
No, he did not.
I got. Damn it.
No.
Fake Schefter got me.
Oh, no.
That stinks. Well, McKinney, however, did actually get signed by the Green Bay Packers. But overall, Gino, even though they didn't get McKinney, this was a huge day. I mean, extending Dickerson, getting Saquon, getting Bryce Huff. This has been one of the most impactful day ones of free agency the Eagles have had in a while, and they've had some big day ones.
I can't believe that just happened. Anything that just happened in the last 4 hours, I can't believe it. I can't believe you just got by that fake account. I can't believe the Eagles have signed Saquon Barkley. I can't believe they got Bryce Huff. But all in all, like, it's in all fun. This is a great day to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Like, I don't know why I ever wanted to work in corporate America and have to just keep all this emotion inside when I could do this literally. Like, this is my job now. I am Gino Garofalo for Luke, getting him all these reports and making sure everything goes through. But it's a great move towards getting this team back to where they want to be. And that's the new norm. That's contending, right? Like the Doug Peterson thing. It's a tale as old as time, but they truly want to compete year over year. And Saquon Barkley puts you in that direction. Bryce Huff puts you in that direction. Keeping Landon Dickerson puts you in that direction. Let's keep it going, Howie Roseman.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. We need help at safety, linebacker, corner. Let's see what Howie has up his sleeves the rest of the day and tomorrow. We got you covered Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. We thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. As always, thank you so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.